You've been told to care, to show up, to prove you're worth loving. But what if I told you that the very thing you're doing to get closer is what's pushing him away? Here's the truth no one teaches you. Men are magnetically drawn to women who know when to pull back. Not because they're cold, not because they're playing games, but because their energy says, I don't chase, I attract. Think about it. How many times have you overextended, overexplained, or overtexted, only to be met with distance? It's not because you weren't good enough. It's because your presence was too available, too predictable, too constant. And for many men, the predictable becomes invisible. But when a woman detaches, not with bitterness, but with quiet self-respect, something shifts. He feels it in your tone. He notices it in your absence. The energy is different, lighter, more elusive. Suddenly, you're not giving all your power away, and he can feel the gap. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly why detachment makes you irresistible, not just to men, but to life itself. You'll learn how to stop overinvesting, how to silence the urge to prove yourself, and how to embody the kind of self-contained confidence that draws people in without trying. Because real attraction doesn't beg, it pulls. And by the end of this video, so will you. Detachment means knowing that you can care about someone deeply, without losing yourself in the process. It means loving without clinging, giving without expecting, showing up without performing. It's the ability to stay grounded in your own value, even when the other person is being confusing, distant, or emotionally chaotic. When most people hear the word detachment, they immediately picture someone cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. But that's not what true detachment means, at least not in a feminine, magnetic way. Detachment isn't about cutting people off or shutting down your emotions. It's about owning your energy so fully that you no longer let someone else's inconsistency shake your center. When you're truly detached, you're not watching your phone, overanalyzing texts, or spiraling because he didn't say the right thing. You're not trying to fix the connection. You're not trying to make him choose you. Why? Because you've already chosen yourself. You know that your presence is enough. And if someone doesn't see that, it's not your job to convince them. And here's the twist. That calm, self-assured energy is what actually draws him closer. Detachment creates space for a man to lean in, to feel the contrast between your lightness and his uncertainty. It gives him the freedom to come toward you without the pressure of being chased or emotionally babysat. Most women confuse detachment with withdrawal. But withdrawal comes from fear. Detachment comes from power. When you withdraw, you shut down. When you detach, you rise up. You hold your standard. You keep your heart open, but your peace protected. And this is why men are so attracted to it. It's not that you're unavailable. It's that you're unavailable to anything less than aligned. You're not playing hard to get. You just are hard to get because you're selective with your energy, your time, and your heart. That's the real magic of detachment. And once you embody it, you won't chase love. You'll attract it with ease. Let's talk about one of the most powerful psychological truths in attraction. Men want what they can't control. This isn't about manipulation. It's about magnetism. It's about the natural pull that happens when a woman steps into her self-worth so fully that no man can touch it unless she invites him in. You see, the moment a man feels like he has you figured out, the dynamic starts to shift. It's not that he stops liking you. It's that the mystery fades. He no longer feels that pull that keeps his attention locked in. But when a woman is emotionally grounded, unattached to outcome, and not trying to win him over, that's when his curiosity explodes. Men are biologically wired to pursue. It's in their core nature. They are drawn to challenge, to depth, to energy they can't fully pin down. When a woman is constantly available, constantly checking in, constantly trying to prove she's the one, she becomes familiar. And in the dating world, familiarity can kill desire. But when you become the woman who doesn't flinch when he pulls away, who doesn't over-explain herself, who doesn't overextend to make him stay, suddenly he can't stop thinking about you. Why? Because you've taken away his illusion of control. You're no longer reacting. You're no longer predictable. And that shakes something in him. Think about it. A woman who's detached isn't cold. She's just emotionally self-sufficient. She doesn't fear losing him because she knows she won't lose herself. That's rare. That's powerful. And to the masculine mind, that's irresistible. The truth is, when a man can predict exactly how you'll respond, when he knows you'll always text first, always ask what's wrong, always accommodate him, there's no urgency, no tension, no drive to pursue. But when you're unpredictable in a calm, centered way, not because you're playing games, but because you're living your life fully, he starts to question what's going on in her world that's more important than me. And that question, that's where the obsession begins. He starts to lean in. Not because you begged, not because you demanded, but because your detachment created a gap. And that gap forced him to confront his own interest, his own feelings, and his own willingness to rise to your level. So if you want a man to step up, don't try to control the outcome. Don't overperform to secure his interest. Instead, pull your energy back. Let your silence say what your words used to beg for. The moment you stop needing to be chosen is the moment he starts needing to choose you. And that's exactly why men want what they can't control. There's a quiet, almost mysterious strength in a woman who doesn't make her emotions someone else's responsibility. A woman who feels everything but doesn't hand over her heart like it's up for negotiation. That's the true power of emotional distance. Emotional distance doesn't mean being numb or pretending you don't care. It means you feel, but you don't react. You're aware, but you don't chase. You care, but you don't collapse every time someone pulls away or acts uncertain. That kind of emotional self-control is magnetic because it's rare, and men can feel it. See, most people, men and women, operate from emotional immediacy. If they feel anxious, they text. If they feel insecure, they beg for reassurance. If they feel distant, they panic and overcompensate. That kind of energy is heavy. It's draining, and it sends a very specific signal. I don't trust myself to hold this. But a woman who practices emotional distance holds herself with grace. She lets her emotions rise and then watches them settle. She doesn't dump them at someone else's feet. She sits with them, tends to them, and responds from clarity, not fear. And here's what makes this so attractive. It creates space. It creates contrast. A man doesn't feel emotionally suffocated or controlled. He doesn't feel like he has to manage your mood to be close to you. Instead, he feels a calm presence, one that's open, but not needy, soft, but not desperate. That's the space where real masculine attraction builds. Men are instinctively drawn to women who are emotionally centered because that's where their own emotional chaos finds grounding. They might not say it out loud, but when a woman doesn't flinch, doesn't spiral, doesn't chase, they feel both safe and challenged. It's like, wait, why isn't she reacting? That subtle mystery drives them deeper into curiosity and deeper into connection. The truth is, emotional distance teaches people how to treat you. When you're not instantly available to every mood swing, every text, every situation, you set a tone. I'm responsible for my energy, and I expect you to be responsible for yours. That's powerful. That's rare. And in a world of emotional overexposure, that's unforgettable. So if you want to truly attract not just attention, but devotion, learn the art of emotional distance. Don't rush to explain yourself. Don't rush to fix the tension. Let the space breathe. Let the silence do its work. Let him wonder what version of you he's going to meet today. A woman who centers her emotions instead of handing them over. That's not being cold. That's being in control. And trust me, he'll feel it. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from caring too much for someone who's giving you just enough to keep you around, but not enough to truly nourish you. If you've ever felt like you were constantly trying to prove your worth, keep his attention, or fix the connection, then you may be overinvested. And the sad truth is, it's costing you your glow. Overinvesting doesn't always look obvious. It's not just the big dramatic gestures or the countless second chances. It's subtle. It creeps in through overthinking, over-explaining, checking your phone too often, or making excuses for his inconsistent behavior. It's answering text immediately, even when you're busy, constantly wondering what he's thinking, or reshaping your personality just to keep the peace. The first major sign you're overinvested is anxiety. When there's silence. If his lack of response throws you off emotionally, if you feel panicked, restless, or start blaming yourself, You've attached your inner peace to his availability. That's dangerous territory because it means your emotional center is no longer within you. You've handed it over to him. The second sign is emotional overfunctioning. That looks like initiating every conversation, making all the plans, doing the emotional labor of keeping the connection alive. It looks like being understanding, even when your needs go unmet. When you're doing all the work while he sits back and receives, you're not just overinvesting, you're betraying yourself. Another clue? You're always trying to be easygoing, even when you're hurting. You ignore red flags. You silence your standards. You think that by being low maintenance, he'll see you as different, special, irreplaceable. But all he sees is someone who doesn't value herself enough to walk away when things get one-sided. You might also notice a slow loss of confidence. That's not an accident. Overinvesting drains your feminine energy. You feel tired, unsure, less radiant. You're no longer playful or light. You become more reactive, less inspired. Why? Because when you pour into someone who doesn't refill you, you slowly empty yourself. And here's the worst part. The more you give, the less he values it. Why? Because it's no longer earned. It's expected. That's the brutal irony of overinvesting. What you think will bring you closer actually pushes him away. He doesn't have to show up fully because you're showing up for him. That's not partnership. That's imbalance. But once you become aware of these patterns, you can reclaim your glow. You can pull your energy back, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You can choose to stop texting first, to stop justifying his behavior, to stop rearranging your day for someone who hasn't even confirmed plans. Remember, a woman in her glow doesn't chase. She doesn't beg. She doesn't perform. She radiates. And the right man will feel that and meet her there. So if you're watching this and realizing you've been overinvesting, this isn't about shame. It's about awakening. You're not crazy, clingy, or too much. You're just tired of giving to someone who isn't giving back. It's time to redirect that energy back to yourself. Your glow isn't gone. It's just been buried under the weight of trying too hard. Take a breath, pull back, and let your light return. Because you were never meant to dim to be loved. Detachment doesn't mean shutting down, disappearing, or becoming emotionally cold. In fact, it's the exact opposite. True detachment is about choosing when and how to give without losing yourself in the process. It's about having the emotional awareness and strength to be fully present without feeling the need to control the situation or fix every little thing. If you've ever found yourself constantly giving, trying to please, or feeling responsible for his feelings, only to end up drained or confused, you've probably experienced the difference between detachment and emotional withdrawal. And while emotional withdrawal comes from fear, detachment comes from strength. It's about balancing your energy, not hiding from connection. So how do you detach without seeming distant? The key lies in being intentional with your energy, your time, and your presence. Here's how. The first step is establishing emotional boundaries. Emotional boundaries don't mean shutting off or becoming unavailable. Instead, they're about knowing what you're willing to give and what you're not. For example, if he cancels plans last minute or keeps you waiting, emotional detachment allows you to choose whether you're okay with that or whether it's time to say something. You don't need to overreact, but you do need to honor your own time and feelings. Next, practice emotional self-sufficiency. This is a big one. A woman who's emotionally detached doesn't rely on external validation to feel good about herself. She doesn't need constant reassurance or attention to feel worthy. She knows her worth regardless of what anyone else is doing. When you develop emotional self-sufficiency, your happiness becomes independent of how he's behaving. You can enjoy the connection without depending on it for your self-esteem. Another essential step is learning how to be present without over-investing. You can engage with someone, enjoy their company, and have meaningful conversations without losing yourself in the interaction. You're still present, still emotionally engaged, but you're not constantly thinking about the outcome or wondering if he likes you. It's the difference between a relaxed, calm connection and an anxious, clingy one. When you can give your attention and affection without needing a specific result, you become magnetic. Additionally, create space without disappearing. Detachment isn't about ghosting or cutting someone off when they aren't giving you what you need. It's about pulling back just enough to let them feel the contrast. It's about letting the relationship breathe, instead of suffocating it with neediness or over-attachment. For example, instead of always texting first or waiting by your phone, simply give him the space to initiate. Let him wonder what you're up to, without making it a game. This is the delicate balance between being present and being unavailable. It's all about giving without demanding. Another powerful technique for detaching, without being distant, is staying emotionally centered. If he does something that triggers you or makes you feel anxious, practice staying grounded. Don't let every little thing unsettle you or knock you off your emotional center. Detaching emotionally means responding, not reacting. Take a breath before you reply. Don't rush to explain or justify your feelings. Stay in your power and allow him to come to you without feeling like you need to chase him down. True detachment allows you to still show love and affection, but without clinging. You can still be emotionally available, but without sacrificing your peace. It's about finding that perfect balance between caring and preserving your energy. When you can do that, you'll find that the right people will naturally gravitate toward you and stay. There's a quiet power in walking away. It's not an act of giving up or walking out of anger. It's an act of self-respect, an acknowledgement of your worth, and an invitation for the other person to step up. And while it might seem counterintuitive, when you walk away, he often wakes up. When you're always available, always chasing, always bending over backwards to keep him interested, you're actually robbing him of the opportunity to realize what he stands to lose. He gets comfortable. He starts to take you for granted. But when you pull your energy back and walk away, not out of frustration, but out of understanding that you deserve better, he starts to notice you in a completely different light. You see, the human brain is wired to appreciate something only when it's at risk of being lost. If something feels too easy, too available, there's no urgency to keep it. But when you walk away, even just for a little while, you create space. That space forces him to reflect. He begins to question, wait, what just happened? Why isn't she texting me? Why isn't she chasing me anymore? And here's the thing, when a man sees that you're okay without him, that you're fine walking away and living your life, he wakes up to the fact that he can't control everything. He starts realizing that you're not just an option, you're a priority. Your value is clear because you no longer need him to define your worth. When you walk away, you're showing him that you're not emotionally dependent on the relationship. You're not sitting around waiting for his approval or attention. Instead, you're busy living your life, growing and thriving. This absence isn't a rejection. It's an invitation for him to do some real soul searching. But here's the catch. It only works when you walk away with grace. It's not about storming off in anger or holding on to resentment. It's not about proving a point or making him chase you just for the thrill of it. It's about quietly stepping back and respecting your own needs. When you walk away, it should be clear that you're doing it for yourself, not to punish him. You're simply not available for anything less than what you deserve. The moment you detach and stop over-investing, you stop seeking constant validation or reassurance. You start to live for yourself, not for the relationship. That shift in energy is magnetic. Suddenly, you're not the one doing all the chasing or trying to make things work. You're no longer living in uncertainty, hoping for a text or a sign that he's still interested. Instead, you're confidently moving forward with your life, and that confidence will draw him in. What happens when you walk away is that he starts to question his own level of investment. He'll ask himself whether he truly wants to lose you, whether he's willing to let someone who's this important slip away. The absence makes him think, reflect, and ultimately miss what he had. And that's when the emotional shift occurs. He starts to realize your value. But it's essential to understand that when you walk away, it's not about manipulation. It's about self-respect and boundaries. If a man doesn't recognize your worth while you're investing in the relationship, then perhaps he's not the right one for you. But when he begins to feel your absence, he will either rise to the occasion or move on. Either way, your self-respect is the foundation for what comes next. Walking away isn't an admission of failure. It's a decision to preserve your peace, your worth, and your heart. And in doing so, you create the space for real, meaningful connections. If he's truly interested, He'll wake up and pursue you in a way that feels aligned and genuine. Because sometimes the only way to get someone's attention is to stop giving yours away so freely. Detachment is a powerful tool for preserving your sense of self, maintaining emotional balance, and attracting the right kind of attention. However, it's easy to slip into common mistakes that can completely undermine your ability to stay detached. These mistakes can leave you feeling frustrated, confused, or even hurt. So it's important to recognize and avoid them before they derail your emotional growth. Here are some of the most common mistakes that can kill detachment, and how to make sure they don't interfere with your ability to live freely and confidently. The first mistake is overanalyzing every interaction. When you're emotionally invested in someone, it's tempting to break down every text, every look, and every word for hidden meanings. But when you do this, you're letting your mind run wild and lose perspective. Detachment is about allowing things to unfold naturally without overthinking. Overanalyzing situations or reading too much into the smallest actions only increases your emotional dependence, which is the exact opposite of detachment. Instead of analyzing everything he says or does, practice letting things be. Allow yourself to simply be in the moment and not attach unnecessary meaning to every little thing. The second mistake is over-explaining your feelings. When you feel like you're not getting enough attention or reassurance, it might be tempting to over-explain why you feel hurt or why you need more from him. While it's important to communicate your needs in a relationship, over-explaining can feel like you're begging for validation. If you constantly explain yourself and try to convince him of your feelings, you're giving away your emotional power. Detachment is about owning your emotions without needing validation from anyone. If something is bothering you, it's okay to communicate it, but do so without the need to defend or justify yourself excessively. Another mistake that kills detachment is chasing after him when he pulls away. One of the key components of detachment is allowing space. If a man pulls away or goes silent, it's tempting to rush after him, send multiple texts, or try to figure out what's wrong. But this only weakens your position and makes you appear emotionally desperate. Instead of chasing him, step back and give him the space he needs. Use this time to focus on yourself and your own growth. By not chasing after him, you send the message that you have your own life and that his absence won't dictate your emotional state. Remember, detachment is about valuing yourself enough to let him come to you if he's genuinely interested. A fourth mistake is making his behavior your responsibility. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that if you just act differently or give more, you can change his behavior or make him more invested in the relationship. But this is a slippery slope. When you take on the responsibility for how he behaves, you're giving up your power and compromising your own needs. Detachment isn't about changing yourself to fit into his world. It's about staying true to yourself while maintaining emotional independence. Stop trying to fix his behavior or manage his moods. Instead, focus on what you can control, your own reactions and your own emotional boundaries. Another big mistake is becoming emotionally unavailable or cold. Detachment doesn't mean shutting yourself off emotionally. It doesn't mean becoming distant, cold, or unkind. The key difference is that detachment is about choice. It's about choosing when to invest your energy and when to conserve it, but still being present and emotionally open when it's needed. If you turn completely cold, you may find that you push him away in a way that isn't productive. Emotional availability is still important. It's just about finding the right balance between opening up and protecting yourself from overinvesting. Lastly, one of the most damaging mistakes is getting back to your old, clingy habits when things feel uncertain. It's easy to slip back into old patterns of neediness when you feel insecure or when the relationship seems uncertain. But this is when you need to lean into detachment the most. If you start texting him non-stop or seeking constant reassurance, you're immediately sabotaging your detachment. Instead, remind yourself of your worth and pull your energy back. Let the relationship unfold without forcing it. The moment you stop leaning into your insecurities and instead lean into your strength, you will naturally protect your peace and your glow. To preserve your detachment, focus on staying grounded in yourself and setting boundaries that prioritize your emotional well-being. When you avoid these common mistakes and embrace true detachment, you not only protect your heart, but but also create the space for the right person to step up and meet you where you are. The truth is, becoming the woman he can't ignore isn't about playing games or trying to force someone's attention. It's about fully embracing who you are, cultivating your inner strength, and stepping into your own power. When you're the woman who values herself, knows her worth, and doesn't chase after validation, you automatically become someone who is impossible to ignore. So how do you embody this kind of energy? The first step is to stop seeking external validation. When you stop constantly looking for approval from others, you shift your focus inward. Your worth is no longer determined by whether or not he texts you back, whether or not he's giving you the attention you want, or whether you're meeting someone else's expectations. Your worth comes from within. You start to trust your own voice, your own decisions, and your own path. And that self-assurance is magnetic. When you're not desperate for his attention, you exude an aura of independence that will draw him in without you even trying. The second key to becoming the woman he can't ignore is to build your life around your passions and goals. A woman who's focused on her own growth, who's actively working on her career, health, friendships, and personal development, becomes a woman who radiates confidence and purpose. She isn't sitting around waiting for someone to give her life meaning. She's already living a fulfilling and exciting life. When you invest in yourself and your future, you become someone who is busy living her life to the fullest. And this kind of energy is irresistibly attractive. Not only does this make you feel good about yourself, but it also shows him that your happiness isn't tied to him. Another important piece of becoming the woman he can't ignore is to embrace your authentic self. So often we feel the need to change or modify ourselves to fit into someone else's world or expectations. But the reality is, when you embrace who you truly are without apology or compromise, you become magnetic. You no longer feel the need to perform or be something you're not in order to keep someone interested. You show up as the real, unfiltered version of yourself. And that authenticity is what makes you truly unforgettable. The more you are yourself, the more you attract those who resonate with the real you. To become the woman he can't ignore, it's also crucial to maintain your emotional independence. This doesn't mean being emotionally unavailable, but it does mean not relying on someone else to define your emotional state. You know how to regulate your own emotions, how to stand firm in your boundaries, and how to protect your peace. This emotional maturity is a reflection of your inner strength and confidence. When you don't let someone else's actions or words dictate your mood, you become emotionally self-sufficient, and that kind of woman is impossible to ignore. Another piece of advice is to embrace your feminine energy. This doesn't mean you need to be passive or soft all the time, but rather that you lean into your natural qualities, your empathy, your intuition, your nurturing energy, and you use those to create a sense of balance in your relationships. A woman who is in touch with her feminine energy knows how to lead with love, grace, and confidence, while still maintaining her boundaries and independence. It's a powerful combination that draws others in and makes you unforgettable. Lastly, develop a sense of mystery. While it's important to be open and transparent in relationships, a little bit of mystery can go a long way. When you give a man room to wonder, when you don't give away every detail of your life right away, you create intrigue. Mystery doesn't mean playing games. It means holding back just enough to leave him wanting more. When you're fully grounded in who you are, and when you have your own life and interests, you become a captivating force that he can't quite figure out. This curiosity keeps him coming back for more. Ultimately, becoming the woman he can't ignore comes down to respecting yourself enough to walk away when necessary. You're not afraid to leave when someone doesn't meet your standards or when the relationship becomes one-sided. When you walk away with grace, it's a clear sign that you value yourself and won't settle for less than what you deserve. And that level of self-respect and confidence is impossible to ignore. You don't need to chase or overinvest to get someone's attention. When you embrace your worth, follow your passions, stay grounded in your emotional independence, and live authentically, you naturally become a woman who is impossible to forget. And it's in this space of self-respect and confidence that the right person, one who truly sees your value, will want to invest in you, just as much as you invest in yourself.